Throughout history, human beings have been seeking a treasure.
See, throughout the millennia, I think man has had the feeling that he is sovereign. If we look at human history and even prehistory, we will discover that man has been seeking an imperishable kind of happiness, an imperishable kind of well-being within himself, and which is not touched by time, and which enables him to go through life performing always at the peak level, and he's seeking that fulfillment. He's seeking that limitless happiness, that limitless joy.
They have been trying to find that joy through wealth, property, power, relationships, all external means.
But he's not finding it, and that is one of his great sorrows, that he's not finding it. That's what he wants. Wealth and gross pleasures of the body and the senses and comforts and luxuries may be lower forms of this, which also give a kind of happiness, but then the happiness is not lasting.
Every solution seems transient, fleeting, temporary.
It comes and it goes, and therefore once again man is disappointed because he thought marriage will give him happiness. Then after 2 years or 3 years he finds that he is still not satisfied, so now he wants children, or probably now he wants to fall in love again, and then so the pilgrim moves on the road of life in search of fulfillment, in search of love, in search of boundless joy. That is his quest.
That quest has been directed towards the external world. But fulfillment, happiness, joy are feelings. They are emotions that we feel inside us, deep within us. There is well-developed knowledge and facilities that keep our bodies healthy. But our emotional health is often neglected. We have not been taught how to maintain our emotional health. So we get our fulfillment and joy from external things, objects, and our bodies.
The body is the most palpable definition of what we consider ourselves to be. We define ourselves through the body, and there is an instinct mechanism to take care of the body. The moment there is a gash in the leg because we sustain that injury on a football field, or the moment we have periarthritis in the shoulders or any other disease, then immediately we are quite sensitive to the ups and downs of the body, and we rush to a clinic and seek out a physician or a surgeon so that our health will be restored to normalcy.
But most of the time we are alone with our emotional conflicts, not knowing how to deal with them.
Insofar as our emotional well-being is concerned, I think we are moving. When we talked about the body, we are talking about gross perceptions. When we are talking about our emotional health, then we are moving into our subtle perceptions, and even the emotional health is a very subtle variable, and we may not be as sensitive to our emotional well-being, the ups and downs, as we are to the ups and downs of the body. Because first of all, it's very difficult to perceive it, and secondly, there is no encouragement given to us from mainstream society to be sensitive to that inner dimension, and therefore neglect is almost the default setting, and we are quite quick and we are quite sensitive where the dysfunction of the body is concerned. But we certainly do not have emotional health facilities in the same measure in which we have the whole fraternity of doctors to take care of the body.
But millions of people around the world have rolled out their yoga mats to celebrate the tradition of yoga. Doesn't this worldwide phenomenon keep our bodies and minds in the best possible shape?
Well, it depends on what you mean by yoga. If you mean by yoga, hatha yoga, that certainly is at the physical level, and it does not go deep enough into our emotional nature, into our emotional body, which is the subtle part of ourselves and the subtle definition of ourselves, the flux of thoughts and the flux of feelings, both positive and negative. There is a living energy in the emotional body which is called the self, and it is the self which is in pain after it has pursued a great deal of pleasure. And the self can only pursue pleasure, but it does not know how to liberate itself from pain. That is the downside of having a self. And is there any solution to the problem of pain and suffering that the self creates in the emotional body. That's the mood question for the people in all the religions and for doctors of mental science, and that's the problem we should be really addressing.
The problem has not been addressed for thousands of years. Our emotions have been battered since we were very young, and it continues into our adulthood as we grow old. The injuries have been pushed under the surface. It affects who we are and what we become.
We don't attend to pain the moment the pain comes. And the earliest injury to the self, which is the essence of the emotional body, happens in early childhood, maybe at school or in our relationship with parents, where we are probably compared with our siblings or compared with other school children. The self is humiliated. It begins here, and in later life, as we get into adolescence, we may suffer unrequited love. So we offer love to somebody and that love is not reciprocated. So once again, the emotions are hit. And in the profession, it is the same story. We want to be recognized for our skills and for our intelligence and for our achievements. But this may not be forthcoming for everybody in equal measure. So we are disappointed.
We care for our body. It is time to bring our attention to our emotions too, because they make us what we are.
That should be the area we attend to first. Because if we don't attend to that important part of ourselves, which is called the emotional body, then we are going to be profoundly unhappy people and unhappy individuals. And unhappy individuals are bound to create an unhappy society.
Shankara now offers an online course to address and solve this problem using ancient Indian spiritual wisdom. After many years of research, he has put together a system of study and practice that allows you to cleanse yourself of this affliction. The unique course teaches people how to be free of suffering and reach a joyous state.
There is a very systematic process which is sourced in the lifetime work of the yoga traditions of India and the Upanishadic seers, and in the lifetime work of the master Sri J. And that starts out and places emphasis on the central essence of the living energy which is moving within the emotional body. And there are technical names given to this living energy. Let us for the time being call it self. Now, by watching the self without judging and without criticizing and without condemning, but with a great deal of compassion, we learn a great deal by observing. We understand the modalities of the self, and when we understand the modalities of the self very compassionately, just as a mother would watch and understand her infant who has become mischievous, then an extraordinary thing happens to the individual. There is a beaming out of insights into the nature of the self as to what it is and why it has got into a pathological mode. Now, when that happens, there is inevitable calming and silencing of the self, and that is an important milestone in this whole process. And after that, after we have crossed that milestone, then what happens is our identity shifts from the self in the emotional body to a nameless and formless self, which is the light without a beginning and an end. And after our identity has shifted, which happens when the whole momentum of suffering has come to an end, after that, we may discover, if we pursue that quest very sincerely, that we have always been in a kind of unitive bond with the divine or with the source, call it by any name you like, and that we again establish and restore our connection with the divine or with the source the moment the pathological drama of the self comes to an end in the emotional body.
Many people have benefited from these teachings, conducted as retreats in various parts of the world. Now it's available to you as an online course.
This limitless, timeless beatitude, fulfillment, happiness. Call it whatever you like.